Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Symposium on Innovation and Technology 2020, a new connected world beyond the new normal, jointly organized by the Hong Kong Trade Development Council and Hong Kong Electronics and Technologies Association. Without further ado, may I invite our first speaker, Mr. Marcos Chow, Partner and Head of Technology Enablement, KPMG China, to come on stage for his presentation, The Agenda for the New Reality. Mr. Chow has over 19 years of experience in technology leadership roles across Australia, ASEAN, Greater China, and USA. He'll be sharing insights from the KPMG 2020 CEO Outlook COVID-19 Special Edition, which finds the world's chief executives using this unparalleled moment in history to lead with increased purpose and impact, both societal and economic. So now I would like to pass the stage to Mr. Chow. Mr. Chow, please.
Thank you very much, and good morning. My topic for today is the agenda for the new reality. And as mentioned, I will be sharing not one, but actually two reports that KPMG has done recently. The first one is the 2020 CEO Outlook COVID-19 Special Edition, where we actually interviewed over 1,300 CEOs in January and February. And when COVID fully hit us, we then went back and actually interviewed over 315 CEOs in about July and August. And we shared the findings from last year, beginning of 2020, and also after July and August. The second study is something that KPMG, it's a Harvey Nash and KPMG CIO survey. We've been doing this for 22 years, and it's one of the largest, if not the largest, CIO study done globally. This year, again, we had over 4,000 CIOs interviewed, over 83 countries. We took a break and then came back during COVID. And both these reports have been actually released in the last month or so. The first thing that I want to share is actually the key findings from the CEO study. The first one, is talent and a new working reality. What we've seen so far, despite a lot of economic pressures globally, businesses are looking to change how they actually recruit and the kind of resource they actually need in this new working reality. It's across the board, across all industries, but this is something that we're seeing. And talent risk has shot up to the top of a key risk for growth, and I'll explain more a bit later. The second one is the shifting risk agenda. This was one of the biggest changes that we saw as to what COVID has done to businesses. And the two things, the top two risks were talent risk, and the second one is actually sourcing risk. And we're sharing a bit more of these details, and this report's also available. And finally, what we've seen is a digital acceleration. The companies that have responded very well through this have actually doubled down and actually accelerated the digital transformation. And for those who have kind of pulled back and so forth, it's going to be an interesting observation to see how can they come out of COVID and how can they actually grow. When we look at what the CEOs are saying and how they are reaching out to their people, a few things come up as to what this new working reality is. Employees, your staff, the people you work with day to day, are actually looking at three things as to what they want to do in the company. They're looking for the company's purpose, prosperity, and also priorities. I want to drill down a bit more on purpose in here, and I've highlighted there, right? So employees are actually looking for a renewed sense of purpose. Does this organization values? How have they responded during this crisis? Is it in line with what I want to do, and who I actually am? When there's a disconnect of this value of purpose, we're finding that companies will say, well, after this crisis, I actually want to be associated with a company or organization that shares the same values as I do. And what is interesting is, at the beginning of the year, 77% of CEOs said the primary objective of the organization was purpose or society driven. Today, that's actually gone up. And during this time, the companies which have done really well have actually gone away and over-communicated because everyone's working from home, everyone's not in the office. They're actually spending more time reaching out. And as a result, employees of these companies actually feel that they feel more connected to the company, even though they've not actually gone to the offices in here. So in this instance, it's something that we want to call out as one of the key differences for those successful companies. The second one is from empathy to action, right? Where 39% have had their health or the health of one of their family members affected by COVID. As a result, 55% changed their strategic purposes to the pandemic as a result. These are the CEOs themselves. The second area that tower in there is about prosperity. As well as crisis responses, CEOs are positioning their business for long-term growth and prosperity. And this long-term view is actually very interesting because when we look at the CIO survey, the CIOs have to move on into kind of a crisis mode to tackle day-to-day issues coming up. And they took a slightly short to medium term in there. The one I've circled and want to highlight in here is 80% says that the pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation. And this is a biggest advance where they've increased their IT budgets by a significant amount, and they actually see that this is going to be not only saving their company, but going to set their company up in the new normal. And finally, on priorities. Of the many points in here, the CEOs are doubling down on digital transformation, as well as ensuring that their company can transform in this area. While there's a big leading into ESG, into how they can do better, there's a future of work, working from home reality. But what's interesting here is, and especially relevant for today's virtual event here, is customer-centric supply chain. 67% say that they had to rethink their global supply chain approach. And what we're seeing is how can we actually get suppliers who are actually more agile and more nimble, as well as can they be closer to the target markets in there. And we will see, I expect to see a trend where we're going to have much smaller scale manufacturing, but being able to actually meet the markets much faster. And all these things bode quite well for us here because the government here has actually invested in the right areas, and I believe that with advanced manufacturing center established in Hong Kong, which is launching soon, this continues to give us an added advantage and something special here as well. Now, moving on to the CIOs. These are the 8 things that the CIOs are actually looking at. While it's been good news, they have been given a lot more IT budgets. In fact, this has created a huge headache for them, right? The demands on technology, the demands on what the systems can do. Are they cloud-enabled? Are they able to actually respond to the needs, to break working from home? These things have actually created an area in there where the global IT leaders have reported that a median average, 5% have their budgets actually increased just to deal with the COVID crisis. And this is before the long-term and digital initiatives that they're doing. What we're also seeing, number 2, is each industry is following its own path in there. Some industries are pulling back, some industries are going to invest a lot more. And this growth will not be homogeneous. The third one is the digital divide in here. When the crisis hit, 3 in 10 organizations with the most successful digital business strategies continue to invest while others pull back. And we will see this shifting in who will be top in which domain and in which market as well. Number 4 is something we want to draw attention to. As everyone is moving more digital, moving more online in here, we have seen a wave of cybercrime targeted at remote workers. Speaking to chief information security officers and so forth, they have been kept very, very busy because of these new threats moving people online and we interact. This has been a very busy area for people in cybersecurity. Number 5 is the new deal for employees, right? How do you cope in this area, not only for CIOs, but also HR, where more than half of the staff, they expect them to actually remain working from home. After that, we see what the CIOs are facing with the business leaders in there. As more of the business leaders are saying to them, we need more diversity, we need more trust to work together with the technology team to actually make things happen. And this trusted underlying foundation continues to be quite core, especially when we look at number 4 in terms of how much cybersecurity and threats there actually are. And number 7, CIOs once again have to transform the way they approach things, right? Because as a result of COVID, it's become a technology-centric crisis. Over 6 in 10 CIOs report they now feel more influential because they're being asked by the board, by the C-level suites on how they should respond and what they should actually be doing. And finally, number 8 in there, interesting enough, did things change? the top priorities for board did not change, right, from our CEO study. While some organizations have required a radical change in their direction, for most of it, it served to accelerate the pace that they were already on. As we look at COVID right now, and hopefully, we can move out of growth and going back to growth, here's some stats that I can share with you. On the rightmost, you would see in 2019, I've highlighted both supply chain risk and talent risk. These were actually important, but lower in the top 10 of greatest risk to growth for the CEOs. When we ran the survey in January and February, supply chain risk and talent risk were still kind of at the bottom of the top 10. But when we did this in July, August, these two suddenly jumped straight to the top in there because of supply chain disruption and also talent risk in there, right? I shared a bit earlier why people are changing roles, what they were looking for, and this was actually what the CEOs felt as the greatest risk to growth, their people and the ability to actually get their products in there. From the people, I can go into this fact here. I think two things to share here. The first thing in here, where organizations have a skills shortage. Despite recessions in many places and most places, the impact pre-COVID and post-COVID, the impact hasn't been that big, right, in terms of talent, skills, and shortage, right? But unlike the 2008 recession, where talent risk and skills shortages dropped by a lot, in this crisis, it's not been that significant. And what do we see? Of the top 5 most scarce skills out there, which means that hiring and also training in these 5 areas continue to actually increase dramatically. And I think for the foreseeable short term as well. Cybersecurity, organization change management. How do you deal with people in this crisis? And we've got 2 architectures, both enterprise architecture and a technical architecture. And finally, analytics, right? These 5 have become the most scarce skills that we actually see in the market right now. I think if we come back here 3 to 4 years later, I would say many of these skills still being quite scarce as well. Moving on from talent risk, let's look at the second risk, the risk and how they're rethinking their supply chain. Top of the list for the CEOs is how do the companies become more agile in response to changing customer needs? When the demand hits, when the customers want things, I guess the old brand loyalty and so forth take a back seat, right? When you need a particular product and so forth, you'll be going to what's there in the market that's available to meet your needs in there. This is something we've seen during this, and I'm sure this is something not strange to any one of us. And the second one, to become more robust in the event of a natural world disaster. How do we cope with the next wave, right, or next few waves in there? Are we going to be still being able to respond faster and actually to go to market? And the third one is what I shared, the pressure from customers and communities to bring production closer to home, right? Expecting, if we're in this region where we're quite fortunate, but overall as well, we have to see how do you bring manufacturing closer to the target markets in there. Many companies, particularly those with very complex supply chains, are likely focused on continually to how do you reduce this risk in here. A lot of the areas that we expect to become critical, stripping complexity and building end-to-end visibility in there. We've heard this from even the e-commerce leaders globally. How do you actually shrink this complexity? How can I manufacture a good, actually deliver it to my target marketplace in the shortest time? And we also look at what is in the new reality in here. All of us have experienced this recently, and this massive surge in home working. The data and the views, actually say that working from home will not be going away, right? It's going to be part of our new reality in here, and each company will find a way to actually say, what does working from home mean? Because sometimes it's not that conducive to actually work from home. How do you create more workspaces or more areas where the employees can actually still be quite productive while we're having a crisis in here? That's where we start to look at the board priorities and investments, right? Technology leaders are expecting big budget increases simply to cope with the demand in there, right? And what we've also seen is, This budget increases continue year on year as well, right? As a result of companies moving to be more digital. Even what we're doing here today, this virtual seminar, right? There's an army of people in front of me, and also live translation with all the technologies here to make this seamless for you as the audience. We have seen that the top sectors for budget increases are power and utilities. And the bottom right now would be leisure. But I think once we get back to normal, once COVID is no longer a threat, even those at the bottom would start to have budget increases to actually get the customers back in again. I want to share with you one more part, which is the budget increases expectations by sector, and bring this home to where we are in Hong Kong. The global average is about 43%, but we kind of look at Hong Kong's economic backbone, of the 4 pillars in there. 3 of the pillars are actually above the global average, whether it's in business and professional services, retail, or financial services. My last slide will be on retail, retail with a twist, and what we actually need to do. But I think this chart here actually shows that these sectors, even retail, right, are looking to get massive investments in order to meet with the demands in there. Because one of the results of people working from home and staying from home, online shopping, the amounts have actually gone up significantly, right? And finally, a massive surge in tech investment. Boards, C-suites are actually giving more money and more budgets to and much higher expectations to their CIOs, CTOs, or even chief digital officers, right? We are seeing this across the board, significant tech increases in order to cope and also actually grow from there. And I think it's an area where, while the CIO survey did show that CIOs, there are less CIOs sitting on the board, but what we expect is in the next few years, the board presence of CIOs or technology-minded leaders will continue to actually increase in there. And finally, for us, we've just finished off, completed Singles Day, the largest online event. I actually want to pick up and share a few pictures in here, right? This is what I call pop-up stalls with a twist. What we see in here is these are pop-up stores, and we've seen a trend moving more and more towards pop-up stores. But interestingly enough, these pop-up stores here actually don't carry a lot of inventory on site. And the wares that they show are actually quite small. Because in order to purchase and to buy them, you will scan the QR code, and then you actually get the entire menu of what they actually have online, right? These are kind of the attractions. They come in, have a look at a store, and they group it by the niche categories, right? Whether it's by family or by youth or by, all different amounts in there. And you would see that it's a way to attract people to come in and say, hey, look at what we have, we're exciting, interesting, but you do all your purchases online, right? You have that whole digital thing there. And even something like this in here breaks from the traditional norm of saying having the pop-up stores where we do all transactions online. Now, for those areas or cities where same day purchasing is available, or in a few hours, it could very well be that you're in the store in the morning, you have lunch in the mall. By the time you get home in the evening, the products that you picked at this pop-up store would already be back at home for you. Even a concept like this is going to be, you have a lot of different moving parts, a very robust supply chain, and this is something where the digital investment actually comes into play. And even for an area of Hong Kong where we're in, this is something that can easily work because it will take a lot of space, right? You can have pop-up stores everywhere, and you can then have the whole supply chain working in the background. Now, that's all the slides I have for today. And I want to thank everyone again for inviting me here. I hope you actually get it. And this is the agenda for the new digital transformation. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Please be seated. And next, may I invite Mr. Wong YK, Ricky, Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Hong Kong Television Network Limited, and his presentation will be about from e-commerce to digital ecosystem. Mr. Ricky Wong is the co-founder of the group, possesses extensive and successful experience in telecom market liberalization, popularizing advanced technology and applications. Throughout the years, Mr. Wong's life philosophy remains to be making Hong Kong a better place with technology, innovation, and persistence. So I believe Mr. Wong is now on the line. Let us put him through.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, great. Good morning, Mr. Wong. I believe everyone is looking forward to your sharing. So I'll pass the time to you right now, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much. Again, thank you for the organizer inviting me to do a 20-minute presentations. Today, what I would like to share is how HKTV Mall transforming ourselves from an e-commerce to a digital ecosystems. Today, the symposium is talking about innovation and technologies. Now, what does in fact innovation means and what technology means? My past 30 years in Hong Kong is doing all related to technology or innovation. So I would say it's two words: keep changing. Keep changing is in fact the main theme of innovation and technologies. Okay, so let me start my presentation. Disclaimers. Today, two topics. First, allow me to give you some corporate background about myself, my company, very short one, and then we will talk about how we move towards transforming ourselves to a digital ecosystems. Corporate backgrounds. For those who don't know me or who don't know this company is a public listed company in Hong Kong Stock Exchange, 1137.HK. We first start in Hong Kong as a telecom operator, IDD. In the day one, probably a lot of people you don't know. In fact, some people know me, say some the early generation people know me, say, "Oh, Ricky is famous of the doing callback." In fact, not. In fact, the first few months when I do the IDD, in fact, from the what we call the 800 toll free, we're moving from 800 toll free, and then the callback, which is from a service provider, and then we move forward to Hong Kong broadband, which we already showed a few years ago, which is from a service provider to an infrastructure provider, and then we move forward to HKTV, which is a TV drama productions company, and then we move forward to HKTV Mall. Now is an e-commerce operator today. Now you will see we keep changing what we did. We keep changing the technology we are using. We keep changing using different kind of innovation idea in different kind of industries. Our mission is simple now, is we want to maintain Hong Kong as the most important leading city in Asia, in these regions. We want to introduce more technology into the retailing, no matter in Hong Kong or even outside beyond Hong Kong. Again, a little bit more about HKTV Mall. First, a lot of people know us as a online groceries. In fact, we are not just an online grocery. In fact, we are an online shopping mall. We as a platform to enable those third-party resellers to sell their product on an online shopping mall. Every day, we have 250,000 unique Hong Kong customers coming to HKTV Mall, and every month, about 1.5 million active users using our services. In Hong Kong right now, we have 5 fully automated fulfillment centers. If you guys are interested to come, you can give us a call. We do organize factory tours. You can come and see how we work. It is not IT. In fact, it's like a factory. I would say it's if you never see, you won't believe that that's what we are doing. A lot of people misunderstand, saying that we are just doing an apps and the web. Now, if we are just doing an app and the apps or webs, that can't explain why HKTV Mall is the only survivor in the last 5 years. Many other operators try to do similar things. try to do like an online shopping platform, but I would say most of them are failed or still facing a hard time today. Why HKTDC Mall is still can survive is because we utilize quite a lot of technology and innovation in our fulfillment process. We have more than 1,800 employees. We have more than 350 trucks. And even our truck is very unique. For those who see our truck, in fact, we have a truck have a free temperature compartment, which is very unique. And we are also a search engine here in Hong Kong. We have more people searching like Dyson or other, a lot of us searching more on HKTDC more than in Google's. We sell a lot of things, which I skipped this slide because I'm probably run out of time, or I got already 6 minutes past. This year is great for HKTDC Mall. Probably you are the beneficiary of the COVID-19. Well, yes or no. In fact, it changed the business environment. So we have to deal with a lot of the problem. They may be a happy problem, like we have too many orders, we have too much order that we have to deal with, we have a lot of traffic that we have to deal with. So no matter it's good time or bad time, you always have some kind of challenge. Yes, we make profit. It's starting from this year. We're handling around more than 30,000 orders a day. We are helping, supporting more than 3,000 first-party reseller, supporting 400,000 SKU reporting on HKTDC Mall. Now, we are good. We are the top #1 brand here in Hong Kong, according to a lot of surveys, like New Growth Brand Index. They mark us as the top brand here in Hong Kong. We got a lot of awards. I'm going to skip this. Now, this is important. This is very important in this slide. In the past 6-7 years, what we did, and I always tell my team to do, don't try to build our own system. Try to build our system from scratch. Now, when I did Hong Kong Broadband, we dig the road. We don't use the third-party infrastructures. We build everything from scratch. Okay, there's two kinds of people. Some people, they utilize other people's technologies. Some people, they build their own technologies. Now, we are the second one. Okay, I'm not saying that we never use other people's technology, but what I'm trying to say is we should focus on how to build our own technologies. Okay, that is the value. That is how the value coming from. Okay, so whenever possible, I will push my team to think about what we can do. So in the past this slide, what show you is in the past 6-7 years, we built from scratch a lot of system by ourselves. Okay, we try to I try to avoid using other people's systems. Okay, even the POS, we write our own. Yeah, there's a lot of POS systems available in the market, but we write our own POS. Okay, there's a lot of warehouse management system in the market. No, we write our own WMS. Okay, so this is how our attitude is how we did jobs. We gather a lot of data, and that's how we improved our efficiency, and that's how make us become profitable. Okay, now this is the slide. Again, another important slide is to show you the benefits of using technologies. Okay, the blue line here is the gross profit margins. The orange line is the fulfillment cost as a percentage of our turnovers. And you will see it drop from the high point like a few years ago. Our cost is like 60%, 58.7%, now down to around 11%. It's all because of technologies. We bring in a lot of technology in the warehousing, in every aspect we can do. It involves a lot of investment. However, it will pay back. We lose money for the first 5 years, right? We lose more than 1.7 billion Hong Kong dollars. However, we accumulate quite a lot of data. Okay, I would say we probably have the largest Hong Kong consumer database in our server now. Now, this how enable us to build our digital ecosystems. Okay, this is how, because with the data we have, and now we are at the right time to build our digital ecosystem. So think about, on one hand, we have 1.5 million consumers. On the other hand, we have more than 3,000 retailers in Hong Kong. That is a lot of things we can do. The first thing, there's a lot of things we can do, okay? Let's go back one by one. First, most important is what we call the Open Data Bank. This project supposed to be launched last month. Unfortunately, as I expected, there's a lot of technical issue. It was delayed, but we will launch in the next few days, or if not this week, probably next week. We definitely launch in November. I know that there's already about 20 close partners already doing trial on this. What Open Data Bank, of course, is not a bank. It's not a retail bank. Is a big server we host on Google and we host on Microsoft Cloud. We every day we have server files. The first file is a daily transaction file. So every day you can come into our server. You can see what we did yesterday. Every 5 minutes, you can download a file which will show you all our traffic data which we gather from our GA360s. So you will know what's happening 5 minutes on HKTV Mall. Now we want to pass. It's free of charge. It's a CSR project. We will not charge you anything. And no matter it's our competitor or you are a university research institute, whether you are a digital media agency, you just come in and grab all the data for your own benefits. You can do whatever you like to do. Since we have 1.5 million consumer mobile phone have been using HKTV Mall every month. So if you open your HKTV Mall right now, on the front page on the bottom left-hand corner, you will see a HKTV Pay icon. In fact, I can claim we are the largest e-wallet operator now in Hong Kong. Okay, so no matter you are using Citibank or any other bank, because 90% of our HKTV Mall customers have already saved their credit card on our apps, so we are moving forward to be an e-wallet operator. We also build a lot, since the first batch of our customer obviously is from the age right 20 to 50, 55. So we want to make sure everyone can in Hong Kong, even the elderly, the golden age people, a customer can also enjoy the benefit of the online shopping. So we have a simple apps, less function, larger font size to enable the elderly can also use the apps. We also bring a new function called the food takeaway function. We already signed more than 2,000 restaurants, close to 3,000 now. We will probably have the delivery service very soon. Again, this is what we can do. It's not just the benefits of doing more business, but since we know the address of the customer, so we can help the small restaurants to do more effective marketing. Now, so you see, this is how we use the data and technology and bring more benefit to the consumer and also to the merchant and even also to the restaurants. Live channels, this is supposed to be our main business. This is the TV shopping, so we will enable more than a few live channels on the HKTV Mall apps in the first quarter next year. And then we have the internal ad booking system so that you can do more promotion like on our HKTV Mall apps. We are also a Google and Facebook partner so that you can use our data. Of course, we can't pass you, even using the Open Data Bank or wherever, in what way, we have PCO, Privacy Ordinance here in Hong Kong. We cannot pass you any customer data. However, we can pass you the mass data. Our system is connected with the Facebook and Google's, so that if you want to use HKTV more customer base to do your advertisement on Facebook and Google, you can just utilize our data. So this is what we did. Okay. Insurance, financial, definitely. There's what we are already working on. We are working on that in the past few years. More financial product will coming in the next years, like open a bank account and installment. This is what we are working on. We will have more content. Again, I don't want HKTV more just a buy and sales platform. We want HKTV more to be the center of all the digital life here in Hong Kong. So you will see we did a lot of things. This here is like a content page. We open our apps to a lot of content provider and let them put their content on HKTV more. So the consumer coming in, not just because of buy what they want to do shopping. If they just want to gather to read or to have to search some information about the product or entertainment, wherever, just coming HKTV more. As I mentioned earlier, in fact, HKTV is also a search engine, especially for the consumer products. So we're going to have the taxi calling very soon in the first quarter next year. We're going to ship to overseas. We also have the second-hand marketplace. So a lot of things happening. It's all built on the data we have already. Now, as I said, HKTV Mall or 1137 as a public listed company in Hong Kong, we embrace technology, we embrace innovation. So we keep changing. Okay? We are changing from a e-commerce operator to a technology enabler, to a technology provider. So I think we are quite successful in the past 6-7 years. Developed our own platform, running our own platform in Hong Kong, and then the COVID-19 given a great opportunity, not just in the Hong Kong market. Okay, not just increase the demand of the Hong Kong market. In fact, it increased the huge demand over the world. And that's a lot of operators, a lot of people, they want to do similar things as what we did here in Hong Kong. They want to open an online shopping mall in their own country, no matter in Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, or France, or Germany, or anywhere. Okay, so think about if they want to do this, where can they go to? We are probably one of the very few operators in Hong Kong that we can offer the turnkey end-to-end system for them, so that they can just come to us. We will provide our system for their use in their home countries. So we, 1137.HK, this public listed company, is moving to another mode of operation. Yes, we will still run HKTV in Hong Kong. Don't worry, we are not escaped. We are not leaving. However, we want to be an Oracle like an Oracle company, like Oracle in the e-commerce industries. So we had already set up a center in Taiwan. We will probably set up another center in Europe second half next year. This is how we move forward. Again, if you are really in a company with technology company, if you are really innovation company, keep changing your positions. In any battlefield, you will see the soldiers, the sniper, always change their positions. This is how we can win the battle. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your insightful sharing.
Without further ado, may I invite our first speaker of this afternoon, Mr. Timothy Tam, Head of Public Policy and Government Affairs, Hong Kong Google, to come on stage for his presentation. He will be sharing with us on Smarter Digital City, AI for Everyone white paper. Mr. Tam is a public advocacy and stakeholder engagement professional with over a decade of managerial experience in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. He coordinates Google's public policy efforts in Hong Kong and engages various stakeholders in driving the city's digitization. Without further ado, may I now pass the stage to him now. Mr. Tam, please.
Thank you. I'm Timothy Tam from Google Hong Kong, responsible for government affairs and public policy. And I'm very honored to be invited to this symposium on innovation and technology for 2 consecutive years, and to share some of the exciting findings from our latest research called Smarter Digital City, AI for Everyone. So today I'm not going to talk about drones, not going to talk about driverless vehicles. I'm going to talk about what Hong Kong people and what Hong Kong businesses think about digitization, and what we think the opportunities and barriers are for the near future. So over the past 3 years, Google Hong Kong have embarked on a journey to study the level of digitization across Hong Kong's businesses and residents. And we have published 3 consecutive white papers titled Smarter Digital City 1.0 to 3.0 from 2017 to 2019. And we offered recommendations for large corporations, small and medium-sized businesses, SMBs, and policymakers on how they can make Hong Kong a smarter digital city going forward. And started from this year, we actually turned a new chapter for Hong Kong. And we are delving specifically into the topic of AI. And we have published a new white paper called Smarter Digital City, AI for Everyone. So now let's go into some of the research methodologies. So the content in this white paper covers AI readiness indexes for Hong Kong residents and businesses. And we cover businesses from different industry verticals, including financial services, retail, technology and innovation, as well as travel and logistics. And we also have interviews with different key opinion formers and public bodies and businesses. We also have case studies covering different companies' AI journey. And in this white paper, we are covering the perception on AI, including motivation and barriers for adoption. And we also provide some recommendations for policymakers and businesses going forward. And for this research, we have commissioned KPMG. When you look at this chart, you can see that there are 5 components in our AI readiness indexes for residents and businesses. So the purpose of this index is to track the level of adoption and readiness of artificial intelligence, cloud technology, machine learning, and other related solutions across Hong Kong citizens and different industry verticals in the business sector. As you can see, there are 5 different components, including know-how, confidence, setup, usage, and spending. So today I'm only giving a very brief overview of all these 5 components and the observations in different key industry verticals. And if you are interested, I highly encourage you to read our 150-page white paper for more insights and case studies into each industry vertical. So let's go on to talk about the Residents' AI Readiness Index. So we have an AI Readiness Index for residents and another one for businesses. So out of 0 to 100, we can see that the Residents' AI Readiness Index for 2020 in Hong Kong is exactly 50. And Hong Kong residents are relatively positive on AI's promise in terms of bringing convenience to everyday life and also bringing benefits to the community as a whole. But we can see that there are some areas that will need more improvement, including knowledge of AI. So that is 43 marks in the know-how pillar. And there are also some other pillars that are relatively behind, including setup that includes device ownership, cloud management solutions, and data sharing adoption. And we can see that spending is also relatively behind. And spending refers to both current and future spending. So from our research, it appears that the residents are positive about AI's promise, but they may be reluctant to spend money on AI solutions and products. Again, we have a positive note on usage due to high confidence levels on the benefits that AI could bring to both the society and also at an individual level. And we can see that 74% of Hong Kong residents use implicit AI embedded services and technology, and close to 60% of those residents use explicit AI embedded service and technology. So you may ask, what is the difference between implicit and explicit AI solutions and services? For implicit, for the purpose of this research, we are referring to those products and solutions utilizing AI, machine learning, big data, cloud computing, etc., but in a way that the customers and the citizens may not be directly aware. So it may be some kind of personalization service, some kind of recommendation for you in a video streaming app, and some kind of personalized recommendations in a mapping application. So how about explicit application of AI? We are referring those products and services that are specifically using AI as a core of that offering. So a good example would be chatbot for customer service. And on the right of this slide, you will see that 65% of the Hong Kong residents hope that AI can bring benefits to the society. And also a very high percentage, close to 60% of the residents think that AI can bring more ease and convenience to their life and also to get things done faster. So we talk about all these positive observations. What about some areas for improvement and some barriers from our surveys with all these residents? So we can see that personal data and personal data privacy and security, the cost implication of using AI products are some of the top barriers from residents. So you may wonder whether AI is going to threaten people, whether AI is going to steal our jobs from all the human beings. And interestingly, from this research, we note that only 2% of the citizens surveyed actually found that AI would be a threat to people, including potential job loss. And very encouragingly, we still note that around half of the Hong Kong residents are open to using AI in daily life. So how can we make this application more widespread, and how can we further boost the confidence of Hong Kong people? It would be important for the businesses and also other key stakeholders to communicate the benefits of AI and to address citizens' concerns about personal data privacy and security. And about cost considerations, of course, one of the ways would be to communicate the benefits of AI to the citizens so that they will be willing to spend on not just the explicit applications, but also some of the implicit AI offerings that I mentioned previously. Okay, so I just talked about Hong Kong citizens' view. And now let's turn the page to talk about businesses. And overall, the observations are also very positive. We see that businesses are generally optimistic about the promise of AI, and they are also willing to invest in AI services and solutions. However, there are certain gaps in capability and expertise yet to be filled. In fact, the Business's AI Readiness Index in Hong Kong for 2020 is slightly higher than that for residents. It is 56 for businesses compared with 50 for Hong Kong residents. And out of the 5 pillars, we can see that spending is actually the pillar with the highest score. We see that many businesses are willing to step up their future spending on AI applications. And there is also a strong confidence in terms of AI applications. So they have a very positive sentiment about AI in general, and they also trust the business benefits that AI can bring. However, in terms of usage, that refers to the openness of the companies in really adopting AI solutions and really making practical use cases of various implicit and explicit data solutions, various AI solutions. We noticed that the score is actually less than half, only at 45. So it would be very important for businesses to catch up, not just to be optimistic, but also to find a way that can benefit their own business and find a way that can make all these practical use cases helpful for every business. So businesses are keen to adopt AI to improve efficiency for economic recovery. And I'm sure many of you will agree that this is especially important during this challenging time and will also be vital for post-COVID-19 recovery. On the right-hand side of this slide, you can see the top 3 objectives for businesses in Hong Kong to use AI, including improving the quality of their services and products, enhancing efficiency and optimizing the customer journey, as well as improving customer experience and offers based on by having more insights into big data, having more insights into consumer patterns, and providing a smoother consumer journey. And we can see that around 4/5 of Hong Kong's businesses believe that AI is beneficial and can bring improvements from a business perspective. And again, AI is perceived as a positive disruptor to businesses in Hong Kong across 4 different industry sectors. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the 4 industry sectors that is covered in this white paper include financial services, technology and innovation, travel and logistics, as well as retail. Overall speaking, 70% of Hong Kong's businesses agree that their industry can be positively disrupted by AI, machine learning, big data, cloud usage, etc. And across all these 4 industry verticals, you can see that financial services is relatively advanced, but there is also some challenge in this sector. So while you may personally experience some of the use case of finance, such as virtual banking, e-banking, we noticed that actually some of the financial service companies are quite worried about certain issues, especially on regulatory and compliance issues. So it doesn't mean that they are necessarily referring to overregulation or not necessarily having very big concerns about particular legislation. But the general sentiment is that some banks and some other financial service companies reflected that they are not sure what is acceptable within the current framework and what is not acceptable. So in this regard, it may be helpful for all these financial service companies to have more constructive and open dialogue with the relevant regulatory bodies so that they can openly discuss what can be done and what the benefits of AI can be achieved in this sector. And technology and innovation also does relatively well across all these 4 industry verticals. And I think it would not be a surprise to most of you. However, we noticed that travel and logistics, as well as retail, adopted a relatively traditional business model and mindset. So they would have to catch up in terms of investment and also in terms of finding the right talent and finding the right solutions. So here, we are going to talk about some of the top barriers for businesses to adopt AI. Apart from the regulatory concerns in the financial service sector in particular that I just mentioned, there are actually 3 other very important barriers that businesses in Hong Kong are facing. These include cost implications, knowledge gap, and talent gap. For cost implications, many businesses are concerned about the uncertainty of ROI. So they feel like they have to make investment, but they don't have a clear path to ROI. And they are not sure why they have to invest in AI rather than some traditional solutions. And for knowledge gap, it actually refers to a lack of expertise within the organization. And for talent gap, it is more widespread for the community, as many businesses actually reflected a difficulty to recruit local AI talent. To close the gaps, businesses are eager to train their employees, particularly in digital marketing as well as data science and data analytics. So it is a very encouraging trend. I just mentioned that knowledge gap and talent gap is an issue for many businesses, but it is good that many businesses are going to take action, or at least they're interested in exploring further. over 18% of Hong Kong businesses have already implemented or are planning to implement training programs to develop AI capabilities and expertise. And these are the top 3 areas that businesses want to train their staff on. And these are all very relevant to all these 4 industry verticals. And not only for businesses, Hong Kong citizens are also recognizing the importance of acquiring AI knowledge in order to stay competitive. And on the right-hand side of this slide, you will find out the top 3 initiatives that Hong Kong residents are willing to learn, including a general understanding of artificial intelligence and machine learning, more in-depth knowledge about the application and use cases of AI and machine learning, as well as data science and data analytics. So I have just gone through some of the brief recommendations on the surface for businesses and residents. Now let's talk about what we can do together. And specifically, there are so many different stakeholders in Hong Kong, including residents, large corporations, small and medium-sized businesses, and policymakers. And by policymakers, we are not just referring to the government departments, but are also referring to lawmakers, public bodies, and the relevant regulatory bodies that may be involved in digitization and the use of artificial intelligence. We believe that the general direction would be for all these stakeholders to come together and to have more open dialogues about the benefits and, of course, the barriers of AI adoption so that they can better discuss how these barriers can be overcome. And going into each vertical, for large corporations, they need to bring real business impact by optimizing the power of data. So it cannot be just a fragmented usage of data. They need to have a holistic AI strategy across the company. They also need to develop a very clear AI career path so as to attract and retain the most important AI talents for the success of the business. And only utilizing the talent and knowledge in Hong Kong is not enough. So large corporations would be in a position to have more knowledge exchange programs and some kind of internal knowledge transfer within different markets and also across different divisions so that the businesses can think about how they can formulate a holistic strategy and how they can leverage data analytics for post-COVID recovery. And for small and medium-sized businesses, we understand that it will be quite difficult to come up with a holistic AI strategy and to put a lot of money on AI spending initially. So our recommendation would be for them to use some turnkey solutions, such as some of the AI and cloud solutions offered by various service providers. And it would also make sense for them to partner with other ecosystem players in order to kickstart the AI journey. And for some of the industry verticals that I mentioned, including retail, travel, and logistics, it may be necessary to adjust the mindset if they have not already done so. Usually it is a culture change, it cannot be changed just by education and training. Sometimes it is about rethinking the whole organization's strategy and positioning. And sometimes it's something about culture. It has to start with the senior management level and then cascade it down to the middle managers and finally to more junior staff members. And for policymakers, including government departments and regulators, our recommendation would be for the policymakers to be more open to having dialogues with various businesses so as to clarify regulatory uncertainties. And according to the business's views, it is also very important and very helpful to have some guidelines and success stories so that they can learn from each other. And from the policymaker's perspective, it is also crucial to promote and incentivize AI-related reskilling and education. And specifically, we would encourage the policymakers to provide financial incentives for retraining and education relating to digitization and big data and other areas such as digital marketing. And we would also encourage more teaching materials and more formalized curricula to be incorporated in K-12 education, that is for primary school and secondary school education. And of course, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to really start from data, cloud, and AI. So what we are referring to is that we propose that more formal curricula be incorporated in the primary school education in terms of coding and computational thinking, and gradually delving deeper into more technical aspects of AI and data analytics. So I encourage you to download our Smarter Digital City AI for Everyone white paper for more insights for businesses and citizens. And there are also more case studies in each of the 4 industry verticals. And today, in the morning, I also briefly mentioned Google Hong Kong's commitment to Hong Kong in terms of digitization and in terms of promoting AI adoption and awareness. We build Google's commitment to Hong Kong across 3 key pillars, that is 3 E's, including economy, ecosystem, and education. In terms of economy, we hope to support AI and cloud adoption through providing the appropriate solutions. And we also have a nonprofit grant for a rapid response and recovery program for SMBs in Hong Kong. As credits for small businesses have also been offered to those with active accounts with our company. And in terms of ecosystem, we would like to build the pie together so that we can grow and thrive together. TensorFlow, Google Cloud Platform would be something that many of you are familiar with. And we are also having a Google for Startups program in Hong Kong, specifically supporting female hardware entrepreneurs at the moment. And in terms of digital education, we have various scaled online resources which are free of charge. So you are welcome to check out these resources and see what may be helpful for you. We cover AI and machine learning, coding, as well as digital marketing as 3 of the broadest categories. And we are also very pleased to announce the launch of the A to Z of AI website in Hong Kong. It is a series of simple, bite-sized explainers to help everyone understand what artificial intelligence is, how it works, and how it is changing the world around us. It was available in English, and we are very proud to introduce it in traditional Chinese, in tandem with the launch of the white paper. I'm not sure if you heard about this 好正呀 app. For those who know Cantonese, you would know that 好正呀 is awesome in Cantonese. In order to spread the positivity in Hong Kong and also to support post-COVID recovery in Hong Kong, Google Hong Kong is actually partnering with different companies and NGOs in Hong Kong to launch a Share Joy campaign. And a very core part of this Share Joy campaign is this 好正呀 application. We aim to raise the awareness of the well-being of everyone in Hong Kong. We also hope to enable discovery and sharing of joyful moments in Hong Kong. And I'm sure every one of you would enjoy rediscovering the vibe of Hong Kong as a metropolis. And through this campaign and the 好正呀 application, we would also like to boost interest in STEM education. So what is the 好正呀 mobile app exactly? We actually have a series of 6 augmented reality AR characters representing different aspects of Hong Kong. So you can see we have curry fish balls, we have hiker twins, we have neon signs, etc. So once you download our mobile application, you can scan an object. For example, you can scan a cup of milk tea, and then you will find an AR milk tea character in front of you. And you can also interact with this character. And we are also developing some teaching materials and some activity packs featuring these 6 iconic characters in collaboration with our agency partners and also NGO partners. Our hope is that different NGO partners can make use of these activity packs featuring these interesting characters in their day-to-day activities with their beneficiaries. And there will also be some STEM education materials teaching students how to code using Scratch and also using these iconic characters. So this 好正呀 application is actually not just available on Google Play Store, but it's also available on the iOS App Store. So if you haven't tried this mobile application yet, I would encourage you to download this today and give me some feedback on how it works. So who would have imagined that 2020 has been such a challenging time and such an unpredictable time for all of us? So today we are not taking the time to talk about many of the groundbreaking technologies, and we are not talking about some of the moonshot solutions in today's section. Rather, we are trying to be very practical. We would like to give you a very brief overview of what Hong Kong's residents and businesses are thinking about AI readiness and adoption. And we are also proposing different strategies for different ecosystem players to learn from each other and to thrive together. So it may be good to start small for those who are relatively junior and relatively early in the AI journey. But for those that are more advanced, they may be interested in investing in more infrastructure and also having a more holistic data strategy and more holistic coordination mechanism within the organization. And of course, organizations of different sizes have to work together, and they have to learn from each other as well. So I would like to use this character, which is a star fairy, which is one of our Hou Zheng characters, to end my presentation. I know the situation is rough currently, but with our concerted efforts across the public and private sectors and across different players in the ecosystem, I'm sure we can sail the rough seas together. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tam, for the insightful sharing.